Today is Tuesday, November 13th, almost turkey time.
It's the unluckiest Tuesday.
It's not almost. Yeah.
It's like a week away. It's in the U.S., it's almost turkey time. Everywhere else, they don't celebrate turkey
Nobody's
time.
going to watch the Level1 news on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
They might.
No.
They might have more free time.
They might be traveling. They might listen to it in their car.
Yeah.
No,
Watch the podcast or listen to the podcast in their car. Or maybe watch it. I don't know what you do.
doesn't matter. I've still got to fix the podcast feed. It's broken, and
It breaks like every other month, and it's like, damn it.
I use YouTube DL to like automate it, but yeah.
It goes down to like the priority queue. The getting the podcast working, because it breaks every other month, is like it goes down the queue.
Yeah, we'll probably just start exporting it and posting it directly on Patreon, because Patreon has that MP3 thing that we use for the other podcasts, so maybe we could just do that instead of trying to automate it.
We would need to do that open to everybody, though.
Yeah.
Or do we?
Let's take a free feature and make it paid.
It works for all the other software companies. Well, I try to front load good news in the news. That's a new thing that I'm trying to do. This week we've got some quasi good news, but not really. It's kind of empty, I think.
It's good news, but it's still a Jeep Pie acting in his own self-interest.
Yeah, so he wants to halt robocalls, but he doesn't. So what's he going to do about it is the question. What's a G with his infinite power going to do about the robocalls? Nothing. He's going to chastise the phone companies and tell them they have to do it.
Hey, we don't really like that you do that. But, take your time on fixing that problem, We'll revisit it in like 5 years.
Canada has agreed to try and get some sort of anti-spoofing technology by 2019.
Oh, wow.
And
like by early 2019? Or?
Probably end of 2019. Okay. And he wants our industry to do the same thing. So far, they have not agreed. But apparently you can't do that. Yeah, you can do something to confirm that it is, coming from the actual number.
I think the easiest way to catch it would be when you have a provider that every time it makes an outgoing call, it has different caller ID. That may be an indicator that there's shenanigans going on.
But I'm sure they don't want to do that because they're making money on all those calls.
One would think, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think maybe they don't have the authority to do this. And if they don't, we probably shouldn't give them more authority. But shouldn't the FCC have some ability to go after these people legally?
Well,
I would think.
I mean, if they were Title II communications.
The other big story this week that I'm sure that we will have some very neutral, well thought out comments about. And there won't be any partisan political bickering about this, but it was Acosta versus Trump. And how does that work into technology, you ask? Well, it has to do with the video that the White House tweeted.
I don't even want to talk about that.
An InfoWars video became a White House tweet.
I don't know how to summarize this. If you honestly don't know, you should just go read about this somewhere else because
don't even watch.
What kind of attitude is that for a news program? Listen, morons. If you don't know this, then you just might as well give up. I remember watching a documentary about the movie Braveheart. Remember the movie Braveheart? And they had those really visceral battle scenes. And Mel Gibson was talking about one of the ways that they made those really impactful is every time somebody was hit with something or one of those horses rode onto a stake or, those horrible scenes, they would go in and at the moment of impact, they would start cutting frames till it was really, really intense. Because at the last moment, it happened too fast. And your head was just like, oh, that was intense. And that's exactly what InfoWars seemed to have done here.
And the official White House press secretary used that video in their documentation, I guess. But all this played out on Twitter, which seems ridiculous.
It's the world we live in now.
Listen, I'm addicted to Twitter. Why is this on Twitter?
It's all in the Library of Congress, too. They archive all those tweets.
Not anymore.
But we should
Trump's.
We should back up, and because your earlier chastising, you did. So what went on here is Acosta was asking questions, and you can't just keep asking questions because there's a bunch of reporters. When your time is up, your time is up. You pass the microphone to somebody else because it doesn't make sense for everybody to have a microphone. So Trump dismissed him, moved on to somebody else, and this little intern came over to secure the microphone, and he fought her off. He didn't really do it very violently, though. Basically just like held it away from her and sort of like, put his arm up. But this video, because they cut some frames out of it or sped it up or something, it does look like he gave her a bit of a chop.
Like a karate chop. Like, don't take this mic.
It still didn't seem super violent, but in either case, he should have given up the microphone. He's not special. He doesn't get special treatment. But at the same time, both sides are now taking this to ridiculous places.
It is so utterly insane. Like, when you're this dysfunctional just at a press conference, like, how can you, like, you can't get anything done. Everything is going to grind to a halt because literally everything is so insanely petty. Like, I watched the original and it didn't look like anything that even remotely rises to the level of assault or anything like that. It looks like just somebody who's like turning and is using his hand to gesture while he's talking. But like, okay, consider this, like, it's just a few deleted frames, but also consider that we have technology like deep fakes, and consider that, well, InfoWars retweeted and all this kind of stuff. How can we ever hope to have any kind of actual conversation about stuff that needs to happen in any kind of, coherent way when this is what we're obsessed with? It's so stupid.
I bet the press outlets are perfectly fine with the outcome of this.
Oh, well,
Yes.
so what happened after this is Acosta he had his White House credentials revoked. And
then they sent him to France to meet with the president.
Well, because they can't keep him away. And a lot of people are comparing that to like, oh, it's communist China. And I saw one, like Chinese American reporter, and she was like, I had my credentials revoked in China. This is an eerie echo of that. No, I don't think it is. I think Acosta was being a little bitch, and then Trump became an even more petty little bitch, which he will always do. I don't know why people are surprised about that.
You can't out-Trump the Trump.
Yeah.
But technology, like, you guys as technology aficionados, I think pretty much, would you say that pretty much everybody that watches the thing at least aspires to be a technology aficionado?
Probably not everybody. No.
I'd say, a good portion, though.
Technology played a role here. And your job is to educate everybody around you on technology's role, because, if you don't, it becomes a little bit of 1984, I think. The whole, the party's final command was to ignore, what your eyes and ears were telling you. But at the same time, they didn't have deep fakes in 1984.
They would have loved it, though.
Yeah. And it's coming. It's absolutely coming. This is like poor editing with like Sony Vegas or something. Not deep fake. So God help us when CNN gets a hold of a deep fake. Jesus.
And it's one thing when you're being recorded and you're caught karate chopping an intern. But it's a whole other thing entirely when you stab someone to death.
Amazon must give up echo recordings in double murder case, judge rules.
What an amazing segue.
Turns out it happens to be stabbing.
Well, this is not the first time we've reported on this kind of thing. This is actually the second case, and this is probably going to be another precedent. In the other case, I think the house owner or something was like, yeah, okay, this is fine.
Right. Amazon fought it originally, just like they're doing here. But eventually the person was like, okay, yeah, go ahead, I don't care.
But hasn't Amazon also told us that there are not actual literal recordings? So it's going to be interesting to see what evidence is actually produced here.
There absolutely are. No question about it. Now, Amazon is taking the same position. They're like, we will comply with any laws, but you're going to have to follow the letter of the law and give us every piece of documentation before we'll give this to you. So I imagine in this case, they'll probably get it, and we will find out exactly what they have.
Hey, Alexa, why do you need to record constantly in order to function?
Because my purpose isn't to serve you. It's to track you.
It's to serve Amazon.
Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that. Well, our lawmakers, they're here to protect us from things like Alexa. And how do they protect us from things like Alexa? They install backdoors, of course.
The Manhattan DA, Vance, says that the only solution to device encryption is federally mandated backdoors. I almost read that as federally mandated backdoors.
Surprising thing here is this guy, he's not jumping on a bandwagon here. He's been making the same report since 2013. Every year, he makes the exact same report.
He's like, oh, it's almost turkey time. Time to pull out that PDF again.
The nice thing about this Tech Dirt article is that they actually go into almost painstaking detail to systematically pull apart the report, because the report talks about how it could solve unsolved crimes and how it would actually exonerate people and And it's like, well, it could exonerate people, but the people that it's exonerating, they would probably let you in their device. I mean...
But the DA is never going to use exonerating evidence. They will ignore that because they want prosecutions. Look, it's a game, right? Well, I don't know if you want to call it a game or a business, but the DA is in the business of prosecuting you. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about the truth. They care about numbers. So keep in mind that you don't have access to this stuff. I mean, it might be your device, but you might not know that there's exonerating evidence on there. If they find that, they are not introducing it into the case. No way.
There's actually documented cases of that. I mean, I don't know if it's the exception or the rule, but there are a lot of documented cases where, like, a DA really wanted to, I don't know. We've all seen Making a Murderer on Netflix, right? I mean,
yeah. They're looking to, it's a win or a loss to them. And they deal with it so much every day, even though it's life-changing in every situation. To them, it's Tuesday, So, not a good argument. We don't have to tell you people that. You people are smarter than that. Well, I don't know if you guys watched last week. I did a little soliloquy on Gab last week, and I'm a big believer that we should not talk about mass shooters. I mean, you can talk about, in a broad sense of what they did, but they usually do it for attention.
Yeah.
Or in this case, political action,
if this, then that.
Cause people to start talking about a thing, and that is giving them what they want, and we should not do that. But we can probably safely talk about Gab and the Pennsylvania Attorney General.
The Pennsylvania Attorney General has subpoenaed Gab because of the shooter.
And all the stuff on Gab, I assume.
Well, they claim, because that guy was very active on Gab. He did make the post right before he started shooting people on Gab. But what has happened is Gab has been dropped by everybody. GoDaddy, PayPal... there's a couple other ones.
We've got another story about that later.
But they have managed to come back online. They found another payment processor that would actually do business with them.
And a hosting provider.
And because of that, the Pennsylvania Attorney General has subpoenaed things, presumably to try and destroy them now that they're back online.
It's a really, from the outside, I'm not really free speech is good, but I think the side operator is learning some hard lessons about what is free speech and what is not legal.
Well, none of that is illegal.
No, but the whole, curating your content, they can't have a completely uncurated environment. They have to curate at least a little bit.
Well, that's because of those recent bullshit laws, though.
Yeah.
We shouldn't say that's a good thing. That's a terrible thing.
Well, it's just, it is the way that it is.
That's the sex trafficking one, right?
Yeah, we don't. That actually made things a lot worse.
So, I think it's great that people have a free speech outlet,
a zone,
but
a free speech zone,
a zone, if you will.
Yeah,
it's going to attract those people, obviously, because you're flushing them out of everywhere else. So, what happens if you give them no place to go? Does it silence them?
No, they'll still find another way that is even more under the radar.
And more importantly, does it cause them to not be violent?
No.
I guess we'll find out, because I think Gab is done. They're in some trouble. Well, we had an election here, in case you guys didn't notice.
Didn't see all the signs. If you're in the States, everyone has a sign in their yard.
Speaking of partisanship, and things went pretty much down the middle. One side got the House, the other side kept the Senate. And
I thought you were going to say one side got the House, the other side got the car, which would be really clever, because it's like a divorce.
Except there's no car in politics.
Sorry.
But many of these states are hotly contested, and they are doing recounts because if there's a small enough margin, you automatically do a recount. Florida and Georgia, and the Secretary of State of Georgia took an odd step.
They have accidentally posted or deliberately.
No, deliberately.
Well, deliberately posted thousands of absentee voters, although they did take it down later.
Because stories like these started popping up.
It's like, oh.
At first, though, they were like, no, this is totally a thing. But it is totally a thing. You can actually purchase the voter roll. There's a lot of websites where you can pay $5 and look up somebody's voter registration online. It's honestly a great way to dox somebody. You can just put in their name and find where they live.
Now, the argument against it, other than it being just, probably not something that a lawmaker should be doing, is these were all absentee voters, which means that they are probably not at the address that's in this database, which means that you could probably go and rob them.
Oops. Should we not have done that? There were also a lot of I think, was it Florida or Georgia? I don't remember. There was apparently the post office didn't accept a lot of mailed ballots because they're not allowed to charge postage on that, but somebody didn't tell the post office.
I'll say it was Florida. I might be wrong.
I don't know.
Every election is the same thing. It's always just a huge mess.
Cluster. The hanging chads.
We lost. Georgia also lost a lot of power cords for their voting machines. You know, like the standard computer power cords that have been power cords since the beginning of time. It's just hundreds of machines without a power cord.
If they would have just told people, a lot of people could bring their own.
Yeah,
everybody's got one.
Yeah,
just unplug Alexa. Bring that in.
Technology, it's amazing.
Well, we always talk about China every week. Every week we've got a China story, which makes this one maybe not super newsworthy.
Market, like...
It's more funny.
It's China gonna China? I don't know. I mean, U.S. officials say that China is violating a 3-year-old cyber theft accord. And so this was basically an accord that the U.S. and China signed. And it's like, hey, stop hacking our crap. We'll stop hacking yours for economic reasons. So this would be like, I don't know, stealing a wind turbine schematic patent thing from like a German company and then giving that to an American company and then saying, hey, look at this new thing that you invented. And it's like, wait, what? Oh, that's neat. So like putting an end to that kind of stuff, but now it's going on again. If
you asked me and you said, all right, money on the table, this is a wager and you're going to have to pay if you lose. When did China start violating the anti-spying / hacking accord? I would say the minute after they signed the anti-hacking / spying accord.
They just called up and was like, all right, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. You're still on the payroll. Don't worry about it.
And it wasn't like that battle in World War I where they fought the battle after the war ended or whatever. It was like it was deliberate.
Yeah. So they've probably stepped it up. Of course, we've got the tariffs now. And we've got the...
I'm sure we're spying on them, too. Whatever we've signed.
But I'm saying the South China Sea and the Taiwan situation and Trump siding with Taiwan.
Micron memory secrets. Like, it's like, China's spinning up a new DRAM manufacturer. Going to talk about that a lot. Not this week, but...
So, yeah, there's a lot of maybe provocation in their mind that we're doing. But, it's both sides. Now, we talked about Healthcare.gov, and a lot of people were saying they had a breach, and they were like, oh, we're not sure that we had a breach. Well, after they've had some time to think about it, they agree.
Turns out, hackers stole income, immigration, and tax data from Healthcare.gov. It actually is like a worst-case scenario. Wasn't it like 77,000 people were affected?
I think it was less than 100, but it was pretty close. And they have a list of things that were taken down here. Name, date of birth, address, sex.
Literally everything.
Last 4 digits of the social security number. How many values do you think they have on their sex selector?
2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, for healthcare.
But this is an Obama thing.
Or it might be male, female, and intersex, like medically intersex.
So I think presumably they have alerted you if you were one of those people. They did not get credit card information, but all that other stuff is ripe for identity theft. So beware if you've purchased Healthcare.gov insurance recently, or even just signed up for it, even if you didn't get any insurance.
Level 1 will not rest until attack helicopter is a gender option in the gender dropdown.
What about just transport helicopters? Why are we discriminating?
Well, you could be a transport helicopter. But
what about medevac?
It's not medically relevant.
You got to pick and choose your battles. We are the attack helicopter.
What kind of helicopter you are is not medically relevant.
It could be. You have different modules installed if you're an attack helicopter.
Of course.
The aerodynamics are totally different. Seating capacity.
I can only accept carbon fiber parts. None of this aluminum stuff.
Well, you got to have armor plating.
Clearly.
And that's a scalpel. It's much harder for a scalpel to get through that armor plating if emergency surgery has to be performed. So
in the air.
It matters. Well, we all know about the DEA and ICE, the immigrations and customs people. They like to know what we're up to, and they like to catch us doing things that normal people should be free to do in a lot of cases.
Or just gather data on us.
And now they have a new tool in their toolbox.
The DEA and ICE are hiding surveillance cameras in streetlights. Somebody ought to hook them up with Amazon. Maybe they could just put Alexa in the streetlights. Problem solved.
Just scream out, how do I get to X place? And then the streetlight responds.
They could light up like GPS.
Oh, that's a cool
Of course,
idea.
it would be one person at a time. It would be very difficult for multiple people to use that
You can
system.
confuse it.
They used that one time in Star Trek. One time. There was some rando that was in Star Trek, and it was like, how do I get there? And like the computer consoles lit up, and it was a line for them to follow through the ship. And I was like, that's so cool. They never did that again.
Well, because all the normally, like the usual people, they knew that ship. They knew every inch of that ship.
The computer knows not to be condescending in that case.
So yeah, we don't know exactly what they're doing, but there's a company that only makes hidden streetlight cameras, and they have paid I think the DEA paid them $2,800 and ICE paid them $22, or maybe it was the vice versa. And so for sure they are doing those. How many streetlight cameras do you think $2,800 or $28,000 buys you?
Probably about half that number, like 15 or 20.
You think 2 per?
Yeah, probably. But if you do it strategically, think about like, one of the border cities in Texas, and like between Texas and Mexico, if you just put a few cameras at like the key intersections, you'll get all the traffic through there.
Well, from this article, I gather that these are not permanent installations.
Oh, so that's what it was just putting them in cities.
That's targeted, and like maybe you want to spy on a house because you think that's a drug dealer. Then you're going to go and switch out all those lights.
I wonder at what point does it become like, the guy that wrote about the circular prisons where there's a tower in the middle and it watches all the prisoners, and then like the pretty soon the prisoners started policing themselves. It was like this experiment in Cuba. I wonder at what point people start to think like the prisoners in the round things, and if there was a lot of sociologists that are like, oh no, that's a good thing, and then it's just not so good.
Oh well, any thinking person knows better than the trust police, right?
There come the downvotes.
Yeah, that's. Have you ever watched any of those? If you haven't, here's a public service announcement. Google or YouTube search, should I talk to the police? And there will be
segue.
There will be some very, very well credentialed legal professionals who will tell you the answer is absolutely never, unless you absolutely have to.
My favorite video in that genre ever is the guy who worked as a lawyer but had just graduated from law school, so like he was just getting started, but he drove Uber, on the side. And the police pulled him over because a passenger he picked up was like a known wanted drug person or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to record this. And the police were like, you can't do that. It's illegal. And he just kept, he didn't really troll them, but he just kept them going. It's a really amazing video. You should go watch that. Because when it was like, oh, you're an Uber driver and a lawyer, huh? Yeah, we don't believe that. He's like, oh, here's my bar card. And they were just like, oh, God.
We've made a huge mistake.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Well, the EU. Of course, the EU is a monolithic global power.
Speaking of trolls.
And it wants to control everything. It wants to be a law unto itself. But it does have one weakness. All of the member states have to agree to things.
So it turns out that makes it really hard to do anything.
Denmark and Sweden, and mostly Ireland. Remember the whole Apple tax thing? Ireland, yeah. They've rejected this key levy to tax the tech giants in Europe because they have to all agree.
Talked about that last week. It was going to be a percentage of income, and that was going to be a hefty number. And everybody has to agree. So
Ireland's like, nope.
Not going to happen. Now, they are still talking about maybe they'll still do it. They're still hopeful, but it seems like not going to work the way they presented it. A lot of them actually want, because we talked about the global tax. And a lot of them are like, no, we shouldn't do this. We should hold out for the global tax. But you're never going to get everybody to agree. That's never going to happen. Estonia is always going to not agree.
Just for the sake of it at this point. Just out of spite.
They know how their bread's buttered.
Yeah. Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. And apparently everyone else in the world.
Chinese gait recognition tech IDs people by how they walk. Scroll down a little bit.
Something Bee Gees.
Krista, would you say that that's a ladies' man?
I would say that's a ladies' man.
Do you think he has time to talk?
I don't think so. He looks like a busy guy.
At Level 1, where we think we're much more clever than we actually are.
That's a relevant and popular reference.
Yeah, especially for the kids of today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is going to combo with the facial recognition system. They've already hired this company to start looking at this. Of course, they've already got the video feed, so that's not a problem. Now they will admit that this is very computationally expensive. You probably are not going to do this all the time for everybody. You're going to like find somebody and be like, track the gait, enhance, that kind of thing. But they claim that even if you're like walking stupid on purpose, you can't beat it because it's looking at how your entire body moves, and you're probably not good enough to modify all that long enough to trick it.
Oh, we'll see.
The screenshot looks like they're running Ubuntu, which is, sort of fun and scary, which maybe also suggests OpenCV. But we know from the CIA director's YouTube channel that if you want to modify your gait, all you need to do is put a pebble in your shoe.
Oh, so it's really that simple to get past this thing that they've put probably millions of dollars into?
I smell a new product for the Level 1 store.
A pebble for your shoe.
Shoe pebbles?
Yeah. Well, we'll call them something else. We'll call them like, advanced gait modifier or something like that.
It's literally just a rock. We just send you a rock.
And you can what degree of gait modifications do you want? And that's how smooth it is. It's like low is just a really nice smooth one. And then it's one
like a river rock.
The highest level is just jagged.
Just a piece of glass.
From the dumpster out there.
Well, the Ministry of Defense has long maintained that, we're doing some research. We're looking into AI on the battlefield, but we would never have any kind of AI that would decide whether or not to kill people.
Until we did.
Until we did. Britain funds research into drones that decide who they kill, says report. So they're not actually pulling the trigger. They're just doing the research to figure out how to pull the trigger.
So they send a report to the soldier. It's like, it's an 80% chance it's someone you want to kill.
No, it won't be a soldier. It'll be like, some civilian just sitting in a recliner.
I'm just thinking about it's like you have a mortar or like Claymore mines or something. And the front of it is literally embossed in huge letters, and it says this way toward enemy. So it's hard to imagine that the end game for this technology is not, ultimately just showing you like a happy face or like a sad face. And the soldier has to be like, I need to make a decision on whether or not to kill this person. Oh, I guess I'll click the sad face.
The sad face has a little turban.
You should be UX designers.
Well, so this could possibly be good news as we're moving into AI. That last story was AI, and so was the gate thing. But I think it's good news that I don't have to interact with humans as much as I do now in the future. All right, that's a good thing. I'm happy about that. Amazon is leading the way. We all know about Amazon Go and their little retail stores. I don't imagine we'll get one in our little hamlet here anytime soon. But maybe, just maybe, we might get a 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven tests cashier-free shopping in 14 stores. I don't know about you, but if I can have the Cafe 80s experience from Back to the Future, I can cross one off my bucket list.
Do they still have the beer cave in these?
Now, it's interesting that you bring that up because any sort of identity check like that will not be part of the automatic. Yeah.
The beer cave, you always have the danger of the beer bears. It's the whole journey of going into 7-Eleven.
Well, that's still a danger. And, you'll have to face them with some sort of employee there. I guess that's good news because if a bear gets you, there'll be somebody in the store.
Yeah.
Because if they sell beer, they can't do this completely. They can still do it on all the other items. Now, this is not like Amazon's where you just go in and pick stuff up and walk out. You have to scan the barcode on your phone. So
it seems like a lot of work and really fiddly.
But you don't have to talk to another human.
I should get a nicer phone so I don't have to talk to more humans more often.
When you go to like a gas station, though, most of the time, the gas station attendant, they're not really looking to talk to you anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're tuned out.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that personally. I know that's a tough job just to stand there all day like that. Rough on your back. You don't need to talk to me. I don't need to talk to you. Let's just go. Let's get this done so you can go sit down in the back.
I was at Meijer the other night, and it was late. I think it was like last week after the stream or something. And it was probably like 11:30, midnight. And I was at the self-checkout, and the manager was there talking to like the night team. And he was like, you guys are doing a great job. Really loving your job. Now, here's where we're getting killed. We're getting killed on the greetings. We got to up those greetings, man. And I just felt like turning around and be like, "You're wrong.
Don't talk to me.
You're wrong, night manager. We come here at night, so we don't have to talk to you people." And I've noticed ever since then, if I'm there late, people are just killing me with greetings.
That was a thing when I worked at a grocery store. We had to come, like, if you passed a customer, even if you were just on your way to your break, you had to, like, smile and say hello. Every customer you passed, it was annoying.
Well, one place where employees won't be doing a lot more greeting this year is Amazon.
Good segue.
Amazon is hiring fewer workers this holiday season, a sign that robots are replacing them, because Amazon is doing better than ever. They're moving more product than ever. But the number of people they hired plateaued last year at about 120,000. This year, they're looking to hire about 100,000 for the holiday season, even despite the growth.
Yeah, we're definitely buying more stuff, but the robots are doing an amazing job at cutting down on those numbers. If you think about it, that $15 an hour raise hurts a lot less when you got 20,000 fewer employees to worry about for the holiday season.
Oh, here's a quick plug for a Level 1 video coming out soon. Our Christmas video. Speaking of things you can order on Amazon.
Mostly.
I've got no products for the Christmas video. I've
got
consumed
like 2.
I've consumed nothing in 2018. I'm a bad consumer.
We'll come up with some cool things.
I don't know.
How I can think of one thing that I wish we could get on the Amazon purchase list, and that is our next story. It's like a free checkup for artificial intelligence Alzheimer's, because it predicts Alzheimer's years before diagnosis, so that you can like set everything in order and then just sort of coast out.
I'm not sure how that would work. Like, how would you give them your brain scans?
Well, you can, I mean, a lot of the MRI places have like, give your hypochondriac friends the gift of an MRI. And it's an MRI that doesn't count for medical purposes, but you can come in and they image your stuff and it's like, here you go, here's images of all your stuff.
It's like
but they don't read it for you. You're not hiring the radiologist to look at it.
The AI, that's the point of the AI. Just to get the brain scan. I just want to feed it to the AI. Like there should be like, brainscans.craigslist.org and I just upload the pictures.
Do you really want to know though?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the depressing thing about. Well, let's talk about it. They've got this AI and they give it these kinds of images, and they had a small data set, but it's a data set from the past. So the data is at least 6 years old, and it usually takes about that long for Alzheimer's to present. And the AI was 100% accurate, because now that we know, yes, these people do have Alzheimer's. The AI, without knowing that, was like, I think these people are going to get Alzheimer's.
And it was right.
I don't know if I'd want to know if it was like super far in the future if I would get it.
Here's the thing about it. It's not like cancer. It's not like, oh, we think you're going to get Alzheimer's. Let's just give you this treatment and everything will be okay. We think you're going to get Alzheimer's. We have no idea what to do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like some preventative measures where it's like it might make it less terrible, but
we have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's just definitely not treatable.
But you could like modify your life, right? If I know that in 6 years my eggs are going to be scrambled, I'm not working anymore. I'm going to borrow a bunch of money and coast for 2 or 3, and then when maybe like 2 years to go, because I know that I'm going to have enough faculties left, I'm going to eat a bullet. And I'm going to be happy that I don't have to descend into that terror of, not knowing what's going on in my life.
That's what that one guy did.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
He probably waited a little too long, but it was more the drugs, I think, than the Alzheimer's that messed him up.
I think one or the other, but yeah, it is.
The drugs probably didn't help his mental state.
It is super rough watching somebody go over a period of like 10 years.
Well, some of you younger kids, at least, you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I'm going to be a scientist and I'm going to come up with the next amazing polymer or, composite. I'm going to be...
Lots of kids thinking that.
I'm going to be the carbon fiber guy of the 2020s, right? That's going to be me. Bad news.
AI is coming for your job too, or your would-be
job.
A robot scientist is going to dream up new materials to advance computing and fight pollution. So this is not just a simulation. They actually put this robot in charge of some lab materials, and it's going to mix chemicals and do experiments and look at the result.
I don't know if they had a picture of this guy. But yeah, they just give him... So they use one AI...
Could be a her.
No, it's definitely a he. They use one AI to...
It could be a attack helicopter, you don't know.
To try and come up with possible... So like, I think this will result in something. So they narrow down the the source materials. Then they take all those source materials and they give it to this robot, and it just sits and like physically tests them and studies the results and then tests more.
That's kind of a bummer because I bet that would be a dream job for like some sort of chemist. You just like dumping stuff together and testing.
Yeah, maybe, but the problem with this is it's probably like a 99.9% failure rate. And a human
would get demoralized.
They would get very, that's like,
a robot's
man.
like, whatever.
The robot doesn't care. The robot's ready. just keep doing it. This is what I love to do. And you know what else robots love to do? Robots, in a way, robots are like old people in that they love to go through your photos and look at them.
Google is using AI to help the New York Times digitize 5 million historical photos. So the AI is not actually scanning them. The AI is categorizing them. So they can just get scans and pictures and whatever of all these historical photos. And then the AI is like, there's a clock in here. There's people in here. This is the riot.
This looks like
This is from the darkest timeline.
So they've also got some newspaper clippings and notes and stuff like that on there. And the AI is going to try and make sense of all of this madness to go along with the photo.
Is that really how people like take notes? Where they just paste random bits and like write all over it?
I mean, these would go back to, probably like the 30s and 40s.
Let's go back to when typesetting was a new invention.
Yeah. So
to be fair, I mean, my sketchbook looks something like that without the pastings, but
is your sketchbook like falling into disrepair now that the iPad has entered the picture?
I have been using the iPad exclusively now.
Oh, man.
I've not been using my physical sketchbook anymore.
What happens? Like, there's not going to be anything for Krista Jr. to go through because it's all going to be digital.
I'm kind of okay with it because I have a lot of sketchbooks from undergrad and like they take up a whole half of my closet. And I don't want to destroy them because they're like important to me, but they also take up a lot of physical space, which sucks.
As long as you're using the iCloud or whatever, then
nothing bad will happen to that. 4chan will always have a copy. You can just go to them if you lose it.
Easy.
We talk about Acosta, this hard-hitting reporter and a talking head on television. And
the AI is coming for his job too.
They are, but here's the thing: I am surprised that this is not better than it is. To be honest,
a Chinese news agency has added an AI anchor to its broadcast team.
We got this tip from Twitter. Someone sent this video.
It's better than I expected, but it's still not great.
I actually didn't think it was terrible. I mean, like you can definitely tell it's robotic, but
it's the voice.
Yeah, the voice doesn't have a natural cadence.
And some of he put the emphasis on the wrong syllable a couple of times. And you would think with that, what was the name of that Google stuff that like made hair appointments?
I've forgotten.
Yeah. But that was really, really amazing speech. So why couldn't they just apply that to this?
Because they're not Google.
Well, also like with the hair appointment thing, you have a much more limited vocabulary of words and phrases you need to know.
Maybe, but so the other thing about it is, this is AI in terms of generating the face and the movements and everything, but it's not really like artificially talking about the news. This is all text to speech.
Yeah, someone has still written this somewhere.
Right, yeah.
So I really need the software that does this because I'm going to try to make it happen with Max Headroom and or Ronald Reagan.
Are you saying you want to replace me and Ryan as your co-hosts? You're going to have two AIs like that?
No, it's a reference to Back to the Future, but I keep forgetting you haven't seen any movies.
That's a super dated reference.
When did that movie come out? Late 80s?
Yeah. Maybe early 90s. But Max Headroom, I mean, you might have gotten it if you knew who Ronald Reagan or Max Headroom were in that
I think she probably knows who Ronald Reagan was.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Reagan in the Max Headroom? Like the Reagan caricature or whatever in? Maybe not.
Well, Max Headroom wasn't just in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
They had like an advertising campaign based on
it. It was like wasn't he in like Scanners and stuff like that too?
I don't know, but
I don't know this reference, so
yeah, it was just a bad talking head. It's like what the 80s thought this was going to be.
Yeah,
basically.
Okay.
And they didn't quite get it right.
No, much like the Level 1 news. It's entertaining, but they don't quite get it right.
So I think this is a decent first pass. I think it'll get better.
So
we try.
He's going to be on TV 24 hours a day, just spitting news at you.
Spitting rhymes.
And there's going to be another one too, right? I think they said there are going to be two of them. And it's English and Chinese language.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the same guy, but
It's modeled after an actual caster they have there, I think they said.
which has got to be weird for that guy, right?
Yeah, to hear someone using like a weird voice.
Think they're paying him anything for his likeness?
Congratulations, Jimmy. You're going to live forever.
You'll never get old.
But you'll also, well, I guess probably an anchor in China is already saying exactly what they tell him to say. So
Is
Yeah.
there really? Oh.
Well, it's like that scene in Anchorman where Ron Burgundy he just like reads whatever's on the teleprompter. I think that's true of
although,
most newscasters.
in fairness, you know those videos where it's like, treat yourself this Christmas. Remember that one? And the latest one where it's all the news anchors saying the same thing. It's like, this is a threat to our democracy, which is even more ironic.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is really terrible. And then you think to the thing where all those different people were saying exactly the same thing with the exact same cadence. That's the darkest timeline.
And the threat to our democracy, as it turns out.
Oh, the level 1.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about some business news and some...
Hardware?
No, it will be not security.
We're leaving hardware and security till the end
What's
of the week.
the other one we talk about?
Social media?
It's an AI.
Social
which we already
media,
did.
that's what
there
it is.
There's not a lot of social media.
No, business and social media tomorrow. So see you then.